Julia was just 24, a young black woman working as a waitress in a fancy New York restaurant. Every day, she served people with a smile, cleaned tables, and survived on the little tips she earned. But one afternoon changed everything. That day, the manager was already in a bad mood. When Julia politely asked, "Sir, table 3 is asking about their food. Should I check with the kitchen?" he snapped. "You people always have excuses. This is why people like you should stick to cleaning tables." Everyone turned to look. Julia stood there, frozen. Julia didn't fight back. She quietly removed her apron, walked out the front door, and held back her tears. That day, she realized something. Some people don't see your worth until you make them. She had no savings, no fancy degree, just a dream she didn't want to let go of. The next morning, Julia took up a morning shift at a small bakery. At night, she enrolled in a free online business course. Every single dollar she earned, she saved. No coffees, no movies, just grind. 6 months later, she rented a small food truck and named it Soul Bites. With her own recipes, she sold fries and grilled sandwiches. She served each customer with a warm smile. People started returning, not just for the food, but for her kindness. Her story went viral. 8 months had passed. Julia's food truck had become the talk of the city. Local newspapers wrote about her, and one blog called her the soul of the streets. People loved her food, but more than that, they loved her strength. And then came the opportunity that changed everything. One afternoon, a man in a gray suit stepped out of a black car and ordered her sandwich. He didn't say much, just ate, quietly. Before leaving, he handed her a card. "I own 3 restaurants downtown. I'd like to talk." Julia blinked. That name on the card? It was the owner of the same restaurant that had fired her. The next week, she met him in his office. He offered her a full franchise deal, partnership in a failing restaurant he was about to shut down. "People want food with heart," he said, "and you've got it." Julia thought for a moment, smiled, and said, "Yes, I already know which location I want." That location? It was the same restaurant where she had been humiliated, the one where the manager shouted at her in front of everyone. She walked through those doors again, but this time not with a tray, with a contract, and a team behind her. The racist manager was still there. He smirked and said, "Table for 1?" She looked at him calmly and said, "No, I'm here for the ownership meeting." His face dropped. She handed the documents to the staff. From that moment, she was the new co-owner. In front of everyone, she turned to the manager and said, "You once told me I was only good for cleaning tables. Good news! You're now in charge of keeping them clean. Or you can leave." He had no words, just silence. The news spread fast. Former waitress becomes owner of the restaurant that fired her. Social media exploded. The same place where she once stood invisible now had her face framed on the wall that read, "Built with grace, run with strength." Julia didn't just fire the manager. She offered him a choice: take a lower position with respect or walk away. He left in silence. But Julia made sure every new employee knew this: kindness is policy, and respect is non-negotiable. Months later, the restaurant transformed. The staff were happier. Customers came back, not just for food, but for the soul inside the service. Julia brought back the humanity that was once missing from that place. One evening, a young black girl walked into the restaurant looking for a job. She looked nervous. Julia smiled and said, You remind me of me." She gave her the job, with full training and a seat at the table. In that moment, Julia realized success isn't about revenge. It's about lifting others when you finally rise. She didn't just buy a restaurant. She rebuilt a space that once broke her and made it a place that heals. Sometimes they break you just to see if you'll stay broken. But if you rise with grace, the world won't just remember your fall. They'll celebrate your comeback. So never let someone else define your worth. Because one day, you might own the very table they told you to clean.